Yes, I will focus on Kazakhstan's UN Security Council bid. And I will first focus on the bid itself and the platform that has been developed on. And then I will focus a little bit about putting this specific campaign in a broader context of Kazakhstan's external relations. So this United Nations Security Council elections for 5 non-permanent seats for 2-year mandates in 2017 and 18 will be decided in June next year. And we all know that Sweden is competing for European seat here, but the one seat given for the Asia-Pacific group here is contested between Kazakhstan and Thailand. Thailand is the candidate there, which is endorsed, you can say, by the Asian member countries. And Kazakhstan announced this that it was seeking this non-permanent seat in the UNSC in 2010. And then you can say that 3 years later, Astana started a more official campaign to launch its candidacy. And since then, there have been many public speeches, official documents, and press releases here from the Kazakhstani government here, which has focused on these issues, on this foreign policy objective. The campaign, you can say, is attached here to Kazakhstan's, which we heard earlier here from several speakers here, the foreign policy concept 2014 to 2020. And in that foreign policy concept, active participation in international organizations is presented as an important tool to protect the country's national interest and also to secure maximum visibility and leverage in its foreign policy, both regionally and globally. But the campaign platform here, to say, singles out 4 transnational security issues with the specific relevance here for international cooperation within the UN that Kazakhstan focus on. And that's food, water, energy, and nuclear security. And the focus in all these areas here comes from Kazakhstan's own experience in these areas. If we start with the nuclear issues, which we have heard already here, this draws obviously on Kazakhstan's very successful contribution to disarmament following the fall of the Soviet Union, when Kazakhstan emerged here on the international stage with the 4th largest nuclear arsenal in the world. And also this nuclear disarmament, of course, also from early on required that Kazakhstan started cooperating closely in big international politics, you can really say, very quickly, since this disarmament happened with a strong cooperation here with the United States and Russia. And then in this field we also have, as we heard, ratified in 2006 the Central Asia Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone, which is a legally binding commitment here that this region should not allow any possession or testing of nuclear weapons on this territory. And then in 2015, most recently now, Kazakhstan completed these negotiations to host this International Atomic Energy Agency's first international bank of low-enriched uranium. So as a result of all these commitments, the country has also been held up here as a model here for international disarmament and atomic security. In the energy field, the second component here, Kazakhstan has of course emerged as an energy hub, but also been a very active promoter of an energy strategy, we can say, in Eurasia, particularly within the framework of the multilateral Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And also the upcoming major international exposition here, Expo 2017, to be held in Astana, has as its leading theme here, future energy. And then you have, as one of the leading exporters of grain and flour, Astana also argues that it's well positioned to address problems connected to food security. And when it comes to water, the fourth component here, Kazakhstan obviously has its own terrible experience here with the Aral Sea, for instance, which was once the world's fourth largest lake, but lost maybe up to 90% of its volume here because during Soviet times when nature was quite ruthlessly exploited. But since independence, you can say that Kazakhstan has taken the lead here in uniting Central Asian states in attempting to restore the Aral Sea. And besides these themes that is in the basis of the platform here of the bid, emphasis is also placed on advertising Kazakhstan's role here as a representative of a certain cluster of states, you can say, facing specific geographic challenges. For instance, landlocked countries like Kazakhstan or isolated islands. And of course, then you have the country's leading position in the often poorly understood Central Asian region, including Afghanistan, which makes it a potentially useful actor here in the global arena, especially at a time when the international community is very preoccupied with regional conflicts and also the humanitarian repercussions of these conflicts. If we turn then to some implications here more, if we analyze this bid here in a broader context of Kazakhstan's external relations and multilateral engagements, it is clear that, of course, we are dealing here with a country that has been very keen on taking an active role in international politics, and perhaps that was also, say, formed there in the first years when this successful contribution in disarmament, nuclear disarmament, probably suggested the value here of being in very active foreign policy developing. But so you can say that from early on, Kazakhstan has developed Svante mentioned here, new unilateral initiatives to address contemporary problems such as non-proliferation, confidence building, energy, but also, as we heard Dr. Aben talk about here, and the civilizational or interreligious dialogue. So Kazakhstan's foreign policy and its multilateral relations in particular, you can say, has expressed a clear logic here since the beginning here, and that's been to establish itself as a respectable member of the international community, and one which can be a pragmatic partner here with all quarters of the globe. And you can say that the core of this strategy has been to develop several foreign policy pillars, as we heard earlier, with Russia, with China, the EU, the US, also Turkey, maybe you can say, and without prioritizing one of these pillars too heavily over the other. So the key component of this strategy has been to keep this, say, house in order here by not allowing any pillar to totally outweigh the others. And this, you must say, has been a beneficial cycle here of balanced external relations here, but whether it will continue has become more uncertain in view of certain geopolitical shifts in the recent years. We have we heard US disengagement from the region here, combined what we've seen with Moscow's determination to much strongly assert its control over or reintegrate the post-Soviet space here. And we also see, of course, the crisis in the relationships between the West and Russia, which we heard earlier here and in the past years here, which have not been favorable for Kazakhstan, because it's not only trapped it in the middle of a conflict that it doesn't want to take part of, but it also risks being seen as being under Russia's strong influence. And this is the background, I would say, that from which Astana's recent surge here in international activities is coming. We have seen a lot in the past year only here with from the admission to the World Trade Organization, then a seat in the Asia-Europe meeting, to campaigns that we've seen now securing a seat at the UN Security Council, and they also want to join the OECD, and we see this upcoming Expo 2000 also involvement here by organizing global ventures. So a UNSC seat would obviously mean increased international visibility, international prestige for Kazakhstan, but I think it's also a part here of a general strategy to use these multilateral initiatives to really manifest that Kazakhstan has for sure not abandoned its vision of a multi-vector balanced foreign policy here. So you can see that it's really, in fact, it's seeking its alternatives here, external partners and new avenues here, probably more persistently than ever. And then the concrete question, how to use a seat in the UN Security Council as a means to influence, to exercise influence over international politics. That question, I mean, you have contributions to the effectiveness of the UN Security Council's working methods are possible. You can share various informal working groups, and you also have some successful earlier cases in the 90s, for instance, when New Zealand and Argentina jointly had a proposal how to improve working methods in the UN Security Council. And you also have this rotating presidency of the Security Council, which also helps non-permanent members to expand its potential agenda-setting power here. And this might be a potential here to bring in those areas of work that Kazakhstan prioritizes in its campaign platform. And then, of course, there's a potential here, which you've heard, to use some kind of, assume a kind of mediator function here. And you can say that Kazakhstan's long-standing and stable relations with all members here is, of course, a major asset here. And given the problematic relationships between Russia and Western powers, Kazakhstan may have some potential here of using a seat at the table to mediate some tensions. But to conclude here, from a Western perspective then, given that the Russian vector here, including, you have to say, Russian-dominated regional organizations, has become increasingly dominant in Kazakhstan's external relations the past years here now. And the further integration into and cooperation with key international organizations should definitely be welcomed here, particularly then in the light of an increasingly polarized and unfavorable, I would say, geopolitical context. But also, of course, Kazakhstan's ability to maintain balance here also depends on whether we could take advantage of a potential UN Security Council seat and to act then independently also, and to dispel the notion that might exist that the country is in this increasingly polarized geopolitical environment falls within very clear Russia's sphere of influence. Okay, let's stop there.
Thank you.